Good evening. Welcome to the May 16th edition of the Downers Grove Village Council meeting. Whether you're here in chambers or watching at home, we're glad you've joined us. As is our custom, we'll begin our meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Rosa, would you please call the roll?
Mayor Barnett,
Here.
Commissioner Jose,
Here.
Commissioner Sadowski-Fugit,
Here.
Commissioner Gilmartin,
Here.
Commissioner Glover,
Here.
Commissioner Tully,
Here.
Commissioner Davenport.
Here.
Great to see everybody tonight. Item 3 on our agenda tonight are a series of proclamations. It's funny when we talk about, people say, what does the village do? One of the most common responses is police, fire, and public works. And certainly we do quite a bit more than that. But this evening we've got a few proclamations recognizing the good work that those teams do for us all. So we'll start with Police Week. Whereas the Congress and President of the United States have designated May 15th as Peace Officers Memorial Day and the week in which it falls as Police Week. And whereas the members of the Downers Grove Police Department play an essential role in safeguarding the rights and freedoms of residents, businesses, and guests in Downers Grove. Whereas it is important that all citizens know and understand the challenges, duties, and responsibilities of their police department, and that members of the Downers Grove Police Department recognize their duty to serve by safeguarding life, liberty, and property, by protecting against violence and disorder, protecting the innocent against deception, the weak against oppression and intimidation. Whereas since the first recorded death of a law officer in 1786, over 26,000 law officers, including Downers Grove's own Richard Barth in 1974, have made the ultimate sacrifice in the line of duty. Whereas the Downers Grove Police Department unceasingly provides a vital public service which every member of our community counts on daily. Whereas the Downers Grove Police Department has been and remains a recognized leader in modern, efficient, effective, and empathetic policing. Now therefore, I, Robert T. Barnett, Mayor of the Village of Downers Grove, call upon all citizens of Downers Grove and upon all patriotic civil educational organizations to observe the week of May 14th through 20th, 2023 as Police Week, with appropriate ceremonies in which all of our people may join in commemorating police officers past and present who by their faithful and loyal devotion to their responsibilities have rendered a dedicated service to their communities, and in doing so have established for themselves an enviable and enduring reputation for preserving the rights and security of all citizens. Dated the 16th day of May 2023, Downers Grove, Illinois. We have a few members of our team here. If we come on down, we'll present this proclamation.
Maybe you have like 2 rows in.
Next up is EMS Week. Whereas the week of May 21st through 27th, 2023 is designated as the 49th Annual Emergency Medical Services Week. And whereas the members of the Downers Grove Police Department render vital fire, rescue, and emergency medical services in the village of Downers Grove. Whereas access to timely, quality emergency care dramatically improves the survival and recovery rate of those who experience sudden illness or injury. And the Downers Grove Fire Department provides such life-saving care to those in need 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Whereas the Downers Grove Fire Department team members have not hesitated to take on new roles, embrace new technologies, and constant learning, training, and preparation. Whereas the members of the Downers Grove Fire Department, not good, Whereas members of the Downers Grove Fire Department engage in thousands of hours of specialized training and continuing education to enhance their life-saving skills. Whereas the 2023 theme for EMS Week, EMS, Where Emergency Care Begins, perfectly describes the crucial and caring work performed by the Downers Grove Fire Department day in and day out on behalf of the residents, businesses, and guests of our community. Whereas the observance of Emergency Medical Services Week provides an excellent opportunity for the community to recognize the value and accomplishments of the members of the Downers Grove Fire Department who work and train diligently throughout the year to provide the citizens and visitors of Downers Grove with quality and caring emergency medical care. Now therefore, I, Robert T. Barnett, Mayor of the Village of Downers Grove, do hereby proclaim the week of May 21st through 27th, 2023 as Emergency Medical Services Week and encourage all residents to share their appreciation for the selfless EMF professionals who provide life-saving services every day in our community. Dated the 16th day of May, 2023, Downers Grove, Illinois. Come on down, guys. Third up this evening is Public Works Week. Whereas the year 2023 marks the 63rd Annual National Public Works Week sponsored by the American Public Works Association, and whereas public works services include our water supply, public buildings, streets, sidewalks, traffic control signals, our urban forest, fleet management, stormwater management, and more. Provided in our community, these all together make an integral part of our citizens' everyday lives. Whereas public works professionals focus on infrastructure, facility, and services that are of vital importance to sustainable and resilient communities, and to public health, quality of life, safety, comfort, and well-being of our residents, businesses, and guests of Downers Grove. Whereas these infrastructure, facilities, and services could not be provided without the hard work and dedicated efforts of public works professionals who are engineers, managers, and technicians. Whereas the support of an understanding and informed citizenry is vital to the efficient operation of public works systems and programs such as water, storm sewer, streets, transportation, and our public buildings. Whereas the efficiency of the qualified and dedicated personnel who staff the Downers Grove Public Works Department is materially improved by a positive attitude toward and understanding of the importance of the work they perform. Whereas the 2023 National Public Works Association theme for Public Works Week, Connecting the World Through Public Works, highlights the ability of these professionals to connect us physically through infrastructure and inspirationally through the service to their communities, whether as first responders or daily workers carrying out their duties with pride. Now therefore, I, Robert T. Barnett, Mayor of the Village of Downers Grove, do hereby proclaim the week of May 21st through 27th, 2023 as Public Works Week in Downers Grove and call upon all citizens and civic organizations to acquaint themselves with the issues involved in providing our public works and to recognize the contribution which public works personnel make every day to our health, safety, comfort, and quality of life. Dated the 16th day of May, 2023, Downers Grove, Illinois. We've got a member of our team here to accept this one as well. Thank you all for providing a little applause there, too. These folks are the ones that are serving you every day. We sit up here and look like we're doing the work, and we're not. They're doing it on our behalf, and they really do an exceptional job to everyone. So thank you all. Is there a motion concerning minutes of previous council meetings?
Mayor, I move that the council adopt the May 9th, 2023 minutes as presented.
Second.
Any council comments, questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Item 5 on our agenda tonight is the public comments portion of our meeting. This is the portion of the meeting where we entertain comments on items not on tonight's agenda. So if you've got a subject you want to bring up and mention to us that is not on tonight's agenda, please come on down to the podium. Okay. Seeing none, we will continue with our consent agenda. Is there a motion concerning the consent agenda?
Mayor, I move that the council adopt the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 2 passes unanimously. Item 7 is our active agenda. Our active agenda is the portion of the meeting where we plan to take action on items which we have discussed at least once before, sometimes multiple times. We plan to take action on each of these items tonight. We'll take them one at a time. Is there a motion concerning a special use?
Mayor, I move that the council adopt an ordinance authorizing a special use for 2539 Ogden Avenue to permit a personal vehicle repair and maintenance business as presented.
Second.
Are there any audience questions or comments about this motion? Please come on down.
Mayor, Council, I live at 4507 Drendel, Gary Horak. I just wanted to say I'm kind of against what's going on with the bell tire. I'm sure you've got it on record. I guess the other comment I have is for you guys at Public Works, since they're here, to do a little bit of things they promised the residents on that street since the sidewalk. That's about 4 years ago. I got a steep ditch in front of my house my son could fall into, and I can't even mow it. So things that you accommodate Bell Tire for, you could be accommodating residents for. So please try to get some of that done, clean up the garbage that's been there since I moved there, and that, whatever it is, prairie, drainage ditch, it's horrible. Thanks for listening, and I hope you take it into consideration. Thanks.
Thank you. Others on this agenda item? Please come on down.
So all of you know that we, on Drendel and on Cross Street, we're totally against dull air coming in. We don't mind a business that's unintrusive, and this is very intrusive on all of us residents. And I just wanted to give you guys more residents, homeowners that live in that area. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. Meredith Rogers, 4504 Drendel Road in Downers Grove. I had just had a question if any of the things that we put in the email kind of as a neighborhood, just for some other accommodations, if Bell Tire has read those and had any comments on that. My other question was I just wanted to make sure that the grinding machinery is going to actually be put in that soundproof room. It's in there, but I just wanted to make sure. And then the other thing I had the question on was the lighting, what the candle lighting is on the outside facade. I don't think that was in the paperwork. What the, I don't know what you call it, like the brightness or whatever. I know that you have to, so if you could answer that question, that would be great. Thanks.
Thank you. Others? Okay, we'll move to the council. Any council comments or questions on this item? Leslie, please.
Yeah, so I did meet with at least one of the residents, and so I did talk with staff a little bit to ensure that obviously whatever lighting we have is to code and is not going to extend beyond that, and that we will be checking on that, and also that it will be dimmed and be kind of at the minimum with regard to security levels when they are closed. So I did have those two things confirmed, and I will be happy to, kind of follow up on those. I also we did find out that the grinding machine will be placed in that room, and the noise estimates were based on the bay doors open. So essentially, that would be the loudest it would be. So hopefully that provides at least a little bit of relief. And I did also talk to staff, and I think it's in the packet on here, about the potential to move the driveway north. I know that the ideal place for stormwater is right kind of next to that drainage basin, but you know, you can kind of see that it's going to be right across from somebody's driveway. So if it's possible at all as we kind of go along, I, for one, would like to see that driveway moved as far north as it could possibly be. And in addition to the pork chop, to really have additional measures to try to prevent people from turning left onto Drendel, and even kind of when that goes in, to potentially have some targeted enforcement for a period of time, which, you know, I know we can't do forever, but we have done in the past. So those are kind of my comments, but I do appreciate that, you know, Belle Tire has made some concessions to help the neighborhood, and hopefully we can continue the conversation. So thanks.
Thank you. Others? Martin?
I'll defer to my colleagues, come back to me.
All right. Go ahead. Mike?
Yeah, I just, it occurs to me that the process really works here. The lot is Zone B3. This is a use that is allowed on this lot. And the petitioner's done, I think, a fine job of coming back and addressing a lot of the concerns. So the comment that we were making concessions to Belle Tire, I kind of see it as the other way around, that actually Belle Tire has gone a step above in presenting a really attractive building. And I would have some concern about moving the driveway further north, actually. I think that we've heard concerns about flooding, and we saw some photographs of that. And so positioning that rain garden in the right place so it can be as effective as possible. And we heard from staff as well that's the optimum location. So I think that trumps the other concern. And in any event, it'll be, I think, a little more attractive than what it is right now, which is totally unmanaged. So those are my comments.
Thank you. Chris?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I do want to echo the comments regarding the concessions that Belle Tire did make, but also importantly recognize the public who came forth and helped us get some of those concessions. Right. By raising those, we definitely were able to see those happen where we might not otherwise. I agree with Commissioner Davenport. I think the idea of this building being here and the care and the design compared to what's there is going to be great. So thank you to the public and neighbors. I am confident Belle Tire will be a good neighbor, and I think this council will be very in tune to that. But I also want to welcome Belle Tire. Assuming this moves forward, we appreciate your investment in our town and look forward to seeing more business from you in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Greg?
Thank you, Mayor.
After Greg.
Sorry, Martin. I too, I think it doesn't come as a surprise after my comments last week in support of this. I also want to thank the residents who came forward, because as Commissioner Gilmartin noted, it's really those concerns coming forward to the Plan Commission that led to these changes. And I think they took them from what could have been a close question to, I think, a project that meets the special use criteria. I think, you know, we've seen some of the mitigation factors that are in play here work in other places. I think, in particular, the pork chop to stop the traffic from moving into the neighborhood south on Drendel is a very important piece of it. We've seen that work elsewhere. And we do have other businesses in the vehicle repair industry on Ogden Avenue, right next to other residential areas. We understand that it may not be exactly what you wanted to put there if you owned that parcel, but it is something that the parcel is zoned for, and it meets the special use criteria, and I'll be supporting. Thank you, Mayor.
Martin?
Thank you, Mayor. I won't repeat the analysis I went through last time because not much has changed, but I also want to say that we all understand that this is a change for the neighborhood. Anytime something is redeveloped, it's a change for the neighborhood, and there are questions and concerns, so I'll echo the comments of my colleagues that thank you very much for bringing those forward. But one of the things that was pretty clear to me is that this is not only permitted use for Ogden Avenue, but Ogden Avenue has for decades encouraged these kinds of uses to come to Ogden Avenue through the Ogden Avenue Master Plan, then through the Comprehensive Plan. So it's a little surprised that you would have a use like this go to a parcel like that. The benefit on top of that is, of course, the lot consolidation that I mentioned last time and others have commented on. And did ask the question of staff, and I appreciate the answer, of with respect to those other similar automotive uses that are up and down Ogden Avenue, particularly with respect to tire, repair, battery, et cetera, has there been a history of concerns and complaints about odor and noise and light and so on and so forth? And at least the answer I was given was no. I mean, it doesn't mean that people aren't noticing it, they're just not complaining about it. So what we've done here is understanding this is a change for the neighborhood, is really asked for and responded to a number of requests to ameliorate different issues and placed it, as we're entitled to, as we're authorized to, is place a number of conditions and restrictions upon Bell Tire. So I just want to echo the comment that it's the reverse of an accommodation. We've actually been asking them to go above and beyond here in ways that perhaps might not otherwise be the case in direct response to concerns that have been raised in the neighborhood. And on that note, I did also take a little trip over to the almost open Bell Tire that's over on 63rd and Cass in our neighboring community. Not quite open yet, but it's just south of 63rd Street on Cass Avenue. You can see what one will look like, and I have to say that, and of course, Downers Grove always goes above and beyond, always does things better. We have put more conditions and restrictions on Bell Tire here with what's being proposed than what Westmont required. I won't go through the list, but I wanted to sort of see the architectural drawings in 3 dimensions, and that was a good example to go see one that's open. And a lot of residents live around that location too. And I think we're actually asking for more to be done here than some of our neighboring communities. So all in all, I think it's probably a good balance. I'm sure Bell Tire has done more than they would have liked to, and I'm sure the neighborhood would like us to do more. So it's one of those perhaps perfect solutions where everyone is, it's a compromise and a good approach going forward. But I also want to echo my colleagues' comments about having the conversation and sharing the issues. And if there are other things going on Drendel Road that need to be addressed, well, that's for another meeting.
Thank you, Martin. Anyone else? I'll just not repeat, mostly won't repeat. I want to pick up where Commissioner Davenport left off. This is the process, and what you saw here was the process in play. Councils many years ago decided Ogden Avenue should have these types of activities on them, but gave us, I think, it was a wise decision, the opportunity to have them under special use, which, as others have said, allows this process to take place. So I too thank the residents for coming forward with their collective ideas. I thank Bell Tire for being accommodating. I thank our staff team for working it out with them. But what you've seen here is exactly the process that we would expect to have happen anytime there's a use change around the neighborhood that has a special use. It is change. Change is difficult, but it is not accidental, and it is not preferential. There's a process, very specific process in place, and so we appreciate everybody's participation in that. With that, Rosa, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Jose?
Aye.
Commissioner Sadowski-Fugit?
Aye.
Commissioner Davenport?
Aye.
Commissioner Tully?
Aye.
Commissioner Glover?
Aye.
Commissioner Gilmartin?
Aye.
Mayor Barnett?
Aye. That motion passes unanimously. Is there a motion concerning Chapter 14?
Mayor, I move that the council adopt an ordinance amending Chapter 14 of the Downers Grove Municipal Code as presented.
Second.
Are there any council comments or questions on this item? Council comments or questions?
Any public comment?
Any public comments? All right. Just for those watching at home wondering why we've got another agenda item without anybody talking about it, this is largely a housekeeping item. We have certain opportunities for traffic controls in particular to be adjusted temporarily, and then we often follow up with the ordinance to implement those permanently, and that's what we're going through tonight. Rose, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Jose?
Aye.
Commissioner Sadowski Fugit?
Aye.
Commissioner Davenport?
Aye.
Commissioner Tully?
Aye.
Commissioner Glover?
Aye.
Commissioner Gilmartin?
Aye.
Mayor Barnett?
Aye. That too passes unanimously. Is there a motion concerning borrowing of funds?
Mayor, I move that the council adopt an ordinance authorizing the Village of Downers Grove, DuPage County, Illinois, to borrow funds from the Public Water Supply Loan Program of the Illinois Environmental Protection Agency as presented.
Second.
Any comments or questions from the audience on this agenda item? Comments or questions from the council? Rosa, please call the roll.
Commissioner Jose?
Aye.
Commissioner Sadowski Fugit?
Aye.
Commissioner Davenport?
Aye.
Commissioner Tully?
Aye.
Commissioner Glover?
Aye.
Commissioner Gilmartin?
Aye.
Mayor Barnett?
Aye. That too passes unanimously. Last item on our active agenda, the petitioner for this item has asked that we table this motion. Is there a motion to table?
Mayor, I move to table.
Second.
Rosa, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Jose?
Aye.
Commissioner Sadowski Fugit?
Aye.
Commissioner Davenport?
Aye.
Commissioner Tully?
Aye.
Commissioner Glover?
Aye.
Commissioner Gilmartin?
Aye.
Mayor Barnett?
Aye. That too passes unanimously. More to come. Item 8 on our agenda is the first reading. We do not have any first reading items tonight. There is a brief mayor's report this evening. Rosa, do you have that you could read in the record?
Thank you, Mayor. It is a resolution appointing members to the Transportation and Parking Commission, whereas Mayor Barnett has made the following appointment to the Transportation and Parking Commission. Now therefore be it resolved that the Village Council of the Village of Downers Grove does hereby confirm the following appointment. Transportation and Parking Commission appoint Matthew Novak as chair for a 2-year term expiring August 31st, 2025. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Rosa. This, by way of just additional information, Matt Novak is already on the Parking and Transportation Committee. We had a vacancy which required the assignment of a chairperson. That's really what this does, assign Matt as chairperson. We will get into the boards and commissions process shortly, but this is not really a new appointment.
Mayor, I move that the council adopt the resolution as presented.
Second.
Any additional comments or questions? Rosa, please call the roll.
Commissioner Jose?
Aye.
Commissioner Sadowski Fugit?
Aye.
Commissioner Davenport?
Aye.
Commissioner Tully?
Aye.
Commissioner Glover?
Aye.
Commissioner Gilmartin?
Aye.
Mayor Barnett?
Aye. Thank you all. That is the end of the mayor report tonight. Council member reports. This is an opportunity for council members to report out on other goings-on in the community, other groups they're partnering with, or information they'd like to share. So we'll start with Commissioner Davenport.
Thank you, Mayor. Beating Commissioner Tully to the punch here. Yes, we have only, 37 days left to go. Thanks for the help. 37 days left to go to Grove Fest on June 22nd. Just a quick comment about that, too. The Rotary just gave out $52,000 in scholarships to students locally as a result of funds raised from events such as, so this is a celebratory sort of thing. And keeping on that theme, District 99, which I had something to do with for the last 12 years, was awarded a Cornerstone Award by presented by our mayor from the Economic Development Commission. It's the first time ever that a public agency has been awarded a Cornerstone Award from the EDC. So, it's recognition of the importance of the investment in our community and all of the effects that come with that, positive effects. And then that was on Thursday, and on that same day in the evening, I attended a celebration and award ceremony with the Chicago Building Congress downtown, where the projects that we did at South and North High were recognized as a finalist, and in fact, we won. And this is no small affair. This is a prestigious award given once a year to outstanding architectural building projects in the Chicago area. So a real feather in our hat here in the community. And then last but not least, we have graduations coming up at South and North High, so this coming weekend. So lots of happiness here in town that I wanted to share. That's all for me.
Thanks, Mike. Danny?
No report, thank you, Mayor.
Leslie?
Yep, save the date. Equality Downers Grove and the First United Methodist Church are going to be holding Pride in the parking lot again this year for Pride Month, and it is on Sunday, June 11th from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. And it's going to take place both in the First United Methodist Church parking lot as well as Fischel Park this year. That's all, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Martin?
Thanks, Mayor. Just something I wanted to share that came out of Coffee with the Council, which we held this last weekend. And it's very poignant to the conversation we just had about Belle Tire, because rearview mirror is always very instructive. And sometimes when there's change in the neighborhood, you don't know what's going to happen. There's a lot of concerns and fears and whatnot, but only time will tell. That's always the answer. But I just had to share that we had a couple approaches during Coffee with the Council this weekend who live next door to what is now the Animal Care Center of Downers Grove. And some of you will remember that years ago, we had a rather robust conversation about noise and light and odor and whether it was an appropriate use to put over there on 63rd and Main Street. And there were a lot of very similar conversations. There were restrictions and conditions that were placed on that use. And I recall that when the vote was taken and the matter passed, there were people that left the Village Hall chambers who were perhaps not that satisfied that day with the hand that had been dealt by their local government. And this rarely happens, but the couple came up to us and basically said, yes, we live next door to Animal Care Center of Downers Grove, and we were opposed to it. We were at Village Hall. We were explaining why we didn't think that the conditions and restrictions you put on there were enough. And we were wrong. Now that we've lived with it and it's been there for a while, all the things that we thought were going to manifest themselves in terms of negative aspects did not, and the conditions and restrictions actually worked. So sometimes when you have the benefit of a rearview mirror, you can see that these things that we do actually do have an impact and can make a difference in alleviating the concerns. I'm not saying that happens all the time. I'm not saying that every special use works out that way, but we often don't hear about the 2 years later report. It's usually the concerns and then you don't hear anything. So it was very nice to hear from those residents to come up and say that in a situation similar to the one we had tonight, that the listening and the thinking and the empathizing and the implying of conditions and restrictions to try to address those concerns within reason for the neighborhoods by and far do work. So I thought that would be an appropriate bookend to our conversation today. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Martin. Chris?
Thank you, Mayor. During this Police and EMS Week, I want to express my deepest gratitude and support for our village police officers and EMS workers who work tirelessly to ensure our safety, uphold the law, and respond to medical emergencies. The significance of their roles in maintaining peace, order, and security is paramount, and their dedication often goes unacknowledged. Personally, the importance of policing and emergency medical services is deeply etched in my heart, as my father proudly served as a police officer for nearly 17 years. Along with my uncle and a few childhood friends in both police and EMS fields, they embody the essence of service and sacrifice, teaching me the intrinsic value of selflessness and duty towards the community. Their commitment to serving not only instilled in me a profound respect for these professions, but also nurtured a deep-rooted belief in the essential roles that police officers and EMS workers play in our society. Our village police officers and EMS are not just law enforcement and medical professionals. They are our neighbors, our friends, and our protectors. They are the first responders in times of crisis, the reassuring presence in times of uncertainty, and the relentless guardians of our shared values and principles. Their work often requires them to put their lives on the line, and it is a testament to their commitment and bravery that they do so without hesitation. I also want to publicly thank our police and village manager Fieldman for their support to me and my family during a recent time of crisis. It was the police who helped assure me of the safety of a loved one and kept me informed throughout a very, very scary time. I will always be grateful for that. So this week, let us take a moment to show our appreciation and extend our support for these often unsung heroes. Their service is invaluable, their sacrifices immeasurable, and their commitment unwavering. As a community, let us stand with them as they have stood with us. Thank you.
No report, Mayor. Thank you.
We are on to the manager's report. We're going to have kind of a two-piece report here. Dave, if you'd give us a little update before we move on to the second part.
Sure, I'll hand it over to Deputy Village Manager Mike Baker with an update on our Civic Center project. Mike.
All right. Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. We are really excited about the progress that's being made on the Civic Center project. A lot of work done by the construction manager, Leopardo, as evidenced by just about anywhere you stand around the site. Very visible. In the coming days and weeks, residents will see stormwater connections along Curtis Street and formation of the steel structure on the southern portion of the site. I continue to be happy to report that the project remains on schedule and under budget. And I will now show the video that reflects work that was completed in the past several days.
Thanks, Mike. Next portion of the manager's report, we're going to pick up, we're going to take a brief recess. We will pick up again in the committee room where we're going to begin our long-range planning process. For those that have seen this before, you'll understand where we are. If this is new to you, we go through a long-range planning process that takes several months and results essentially in a set of priorities for the next few years, as well as eventually driving our budget. But those conversations begin now. And so after a short brief recess, we're going to pick up in our committee room. You're all welcome to join us.
And then we develop strategies and solutions to address those key trends and issues that we have identified. And then, as the mayor mentioned earlier in the portion of the meeting in the village council chamber, the priority action items. This is the work plan for this council for the next 2 years, representing the initiatives and actions that are important to this elected body. It's a key component of our long-range plan. When we start talking about the long-range plan, we talk about our flight analogy of roles and responsibilities among the village council and the village staff. We had earlier tonight examples of the council operating at the 10,000 and 20,000 foot level when the council approved the special use on Drendel, when the council approved contracts or documents for the IEPA loan. Those are things that happen at around the 20,000, 10,000 foot level in our flight analogy. Throughout this process, the council will be at the 30 and 40,000 foot level, really setting our destination for the long range, setting our policies, et cetera. In fact, when you look at our flight analogy that's printed in the materials, and you'll see it every year in our budget, the 40,000 foot level in the analogy is specifically tied to strategic goals, which is our topic of conversation tonight. As the mayor said earlier, it does take a couple of months to get through to produce the long-range plan. We're starting here tonight on May 16th. We targeted a series of 6 meetings to culminate at the end of August. We can add additional meetings if necessary to get through that. The idea here, though, is we try to have the long-range plan in place by the time that staff is finalizing the budget for next year, so that we can see the initiatives and policies in that budget that are reflective of council direction. So we'll start tonight with a discussion of strategic goals. In June, we have two meetings targeted for key trends and issues. We have several key trends and issues that we'd like to present to the council this year. And then we've dedicated in July and August 2 meetings for the council to work on the priority action items. These are some of our most robust discussions typically in our long-range planning process. And then we hope to wrap up and see how the plan looks all together by the end of August. So we're just on the front end tonight. So tonight we'd like to hear the council discuss these strategic goals. We want to make sure these goals reflect the policy direction of this council. The goals are explained in the staff report that were included in the agenda materials online, and there's hard copies here for the council. Just a brief overview. Our first goal has been a long-standing goal that's evolved over time, that we are to be stewards of the public's financial, environmental, and neighborhood sustainability. On the financial side, that's making sure that over the long haul, our revenues and expenses are aligned, that they're resilient, and we always carry fund balances that are at the recommended levels. On the environmental sustainability side, this is our stewardship where we deliver our services in a way that protects and enhances our natural resources, and that we would be green mindful of our operations when possible, and seek grants to introduce new environmentally friendly practices. On the neighborhood sustainability side, we all know that our neighborhoods are valued in our community and really define our community in many ways. And so the neighborhood sustainability is really crafting and applying policies and codes that help in maintaining or achieving desired character in our existing neighborhoods. The second strategic goal is exceptional municipal services. The services provided by the village to our residents and all our stakeholders should be of the highest quality and exceed their expectations. And they need to be delivered at a value. You'll hear that a lot from this council, a value to our taxpayers and recipients of those services. The next goal is top quality infrastructure. We've been on a journey to provide top quality infrastructure for well over a decade now. We own and operate several infrastructure systems, and we have specific performance standards and maintenance objectives in each of those systems. And we're trying to make sure that those systems meet those standards and that they are operated at the lowest possible life cycle cost over time. Next goal is a strong, diverse local economy. We work very closely with our partner organization, the Downers Grove Economic Development Corporation, in achieving this goal. Really, this is where we tend to look to our comprehensive plan to implement many of the goals that are found in there, where we attract and retain businesses and grow and maintain our local economy. The next goal was actually added 2 years ago in this very process, a safe community. This is the idea that we are to provide and maintain a safe and welcoming community, that we prioritize safety in the services, in our infrastructure, and that really all of our community members should feel safe while participating in daily activities like riding a bike, going for a walk, spending time around their house and in their neighborhood. And finally, a long-standing goal and really source of pride for the staff is our goal of continual innovation, where we challenge the status quo, embrace technology, and always look for better ways to more efficiently provide services to our community. So that's a brief overview of the strategic goals. Happy to answer any questions, but really we'd like to hear the council talk about these goals and make sure it reflects your direction. Mayor?
So Dave laid that up pretty well. The point tonight is to kick these around and see if there's anybody that feels like something needs to be changed, adjusted. As we mentioned, we added the safe community. If there's a specific adder that someone thinks should be considered. Because this is the starting point and where everything that we do ties back, it's important that it be right, and it's important that we all be on the same page with it. So has anyone got anything they want to weigh in on or comment or questions? Anything along those lines? Leslie, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I think for the most part, I am happy with this kind of breakdown of goals. One thing, like, as you were going through the safe community, I do also wonder if in this goal somewhere, we kind of, we talk about welcoming, but kind of bringing in that sense of belonging for all as well, right? Because that is part of being safe and welcoming. I was just like reading a couple things lately about how the paradigm of DEI is kind of shifting to belonging, and that's something that I know lines up really well with our school districts as well. That's huge in District 99, and I think D58 is probably kind of bring that along as well. So I don't know if there's a way that maybe we can kind of roll that into the welcoming portion of the safe community, but yeah, that's about the only thing that
I would
think
just
of.
piggyback on that if I could. I think in the subtext, it talks about welcoming, but in sort of the header, it's just a safe community. And maybe we can, as we call those out, we add welcoming
Yeah.
as part of that there, so that it's, I think we put these at the top of the various ordinances and things like that, and welcoming, I think, is a important part of that safe community.
I'd add to that the sense of pride and being part of a community, because one of the things that you've heard me talk about before, and this is used in the best positive ways, branding is very important when it comes to municipality. Why do people live in one community as opposed to other communities? Because they like to associate with it, they're proud to say that they're from it, and it becomes a source of attraction and retention, not to use business terms for a municipality, but quite frankly, they apply. So I would add to that sort of a sense of pride in the community and the Downers Grove brand, and reflecting that in all the positive ways that others have mentioned.
I love what I just heard. I mean, seriously, because I echo your comments and the importance that we put on DEI at District 99. And in fact, when we looked at adding on to and renovating South High in particular, we were looking for something to be transformational there, so that the students felt a pride in their school, a sense of belonging, and something that they'll forever be proud that they went there. And it's hard to measure. It's hard to measure the lasting effect of that.
But you know it when you see it.
You know it when you see it. So so I like what I'm hearing so far.
Hard to measure is true, but I think that when you see it, it's kind of a chuckling thing. But
It is true.
We know it in another spot too. People want to be here.
Right.
We are permanently in competition. So Martin, you made the comment not to use business terms, and sometimes people hate when you do that. But that's what we are. We are serving people that live here, but we're also hoping the next person wants to either move here, build a house here, start a business here, or whatever. So all those things are a very important part of that branding.
Right.
I'll join the chorus. I love what I've heard here, and I think that's absolutely right. We are constantly in competition, and some of the folks here were fortunate enough to grow up in Downers Grove, and some of us sort of found it along the way. I think all of us would say we want others to want to come to Downers, and I'd like to see my kids come back to Downers Grove. And that's the kind of town I want to continue to build for generations to come.
Yeah, I think it's good to really emphasize the fact that you feel welcome here, whether you grew up here or if you're kind of a transplant and came in. We're not one of those communities where you kind of have the lifers who are not necessarily welcoming to newcomers. That's not Downers Grove. And so I think some way of reflecting that would be great, because we should, toot our own horn for that.
Saying we're not Minneapolis?
But this is long-range planning. We believe we have these things, right?
We wanna
talking
keep
about
that,
sustain-
retain
we want
that.
to keep it. And if we want to keep people wanting to be here, we need to make the investment, and we need to put the emphasis on the things that we know differentiate us from some of these other communities in the area. And I think these goals are going to help us get there for sure.
Yeah, we need to absolutely project it. One of the things we talk about is a lot of these things get sort of, they've become part of our DNA. It's just how we roll, right? Being a steward of financial, environmental, neighborhood sustainability, having top quality infrastructure, et cetera. And I think we could do a better job of pushing that safe and welcoming piece out front.
I agree.
I'll add that on the neighborhood sustainability standpoint, that'll be a theme that I'll probably bring up a few times through the process as it relates to our comprehensive plan, looking to advance more of the things that I see in there. And you all have a big head start on me, but I've been part of comprehensive planning in the past, and I'm reacquainting myself with our plan. and the details of it, and I see a lot of things in there that I'd love for us to do a little bit more with, and specifically relating to neighborhood sustainability. So.
Any other subjects, any other bullet points that need expansion or addition?
So basically, say everything is great, just do it better. That's
Yeah, that's kind of.
That's our way,
Well, there's a
right?
little fine tuning there. I think
Yeah,
Chris
I
had a
hear
nice,
some opportunity
welcoming.
to add to and tweak this goal on safe community, and perhaps there's some language here that's picked up in these notes that might appear in the explanation of this goal as well.
So,
And we have the bullets, and then we have the explanations, and then what happens through the course of the year is they inform decisions. Does this, whatever is in front of us in the moment,
right.
somehow support these goals? That always ends up being a prioritization effort, but if it doesn't support those goals, it makes it easy to prioritize.
Right.
Anything else? All right, well, I want to try and add one, not letting everybody out that easy. We spent, Dave says, in excess of 10 years, that's probably right, it's probably 10, 15 maybe. Councils for the last probably 15 years have put a lot of work into getting our standards up from a technical standpoint. So quality of pavement, remember that conversation, right? What defines when do we want to repave and not repave? We've tried to improve many of those things. And I think we've largely done a really good job, but it's kind of blocking and tackling. And I think we are at the point now where it would be good for us to talk about aesthetics. It is one thing to design a street, it's another thing to try and design one that is aesthetically pleasing. It's one thing to pick a way to light a parking lot, it's another to pick a way that's aesthetically pleasing. When you do a stormwater project and you have to fence it, as you guys all know, there's 150 types of fences out there.
Sure.
So you can either set the goal as being keeping people out of it safe, or you can set one of the goals as being aesthetic as well. And I don't know what the wording for this looks like. I'd be pushing that all on our staff to try to come up with. But I'd like us to try and weave that into future decision making, because at the end of the day, it does a lot here. Right? As we all know, there's a ton of work that's done by our staff day in and day out with all of this in mind. They're trying to hit all these goals. I'd like us to say that's important. It is to me, but I don't know if it's...
I actually think what you just said, Mayor, is included in several of those things. So exceptional municipal services, top quality infrastructure, continual innovation, environmental sustainability, all those things can come together to not just do something for pure function, but also do it for form and aesthetics. And it's just elevating, I think, elements of what's already up there.
I'd throw in maybe the word sustainable as well. You know, when we think about sustainability, I mean, you're all familiar with that term, right? But as the architect in the room, I'll tell you that the aesthetic piece of that, you know, if we do something right and we do something with the right quality, it's something that's lasting. So when we look around town and we see buildings that we like from years gone by and buildings that we don't like, right? Those things that we do like and we find aesthetically pleasing are things that end up really you can look at as being a more sustainable sort of solution, right? So, you know, not only is it something like pavement maybe that's going to last, but just in terms of the aesthetic and the design, it's inherently more sustainable because it's something that people agree on, it's attractive, and we can not worry about having to replace that, do something different with it for a long time. So picking that right fence, are we picking a fence that's going to last, and we're picking a fence that people are going to, you know, looks good today, but down the road, because of how it was designed, maybe not so much. You know, we're looking to get rid of that eyesore now because it was too trendy, whatever. So, so I think that there's a sustainable piece of this that goes along with the aesthetic that you're getting to.
Yeah, I was going to say, I feel like it fits in with neighborhood sustainability pretty well. That one is like, you know, the thinnest part of that section, but it feels like the conversation that we're having fits in really well with that. We really want to have a good quality character to not just our residential neighborhoods, but
Right.
kind of the
Yeah,
village as a
remember
whole.
The downtown is a
public space-
neighborhood.
The public space, downtown's
Right.
a neighborhood, so are our parkways.
Yeah, yeah,
Right.
exactly,
So are our
right.
So are our sidewalks up to the
Right.
River Street. Those are all assets of ours that we, I think, should expect to be enhancing our community, not just purely serving.
Right.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
I agree.
if I understand what we're trying to reach here, I think it does warrant its own goal. I think I would support a separate goal. I agree, Commissioner Tully, it's in a lot of those other tenants, but I think for us to, if the objective is to create a paradigm shift of how we are addressing things.
That's fair.
And with that sort of aesthetic being a important piece of that, to me, it feels like if it's tied to some of these other ones, the importance of it can get easily lost. I don't know what the right phrase for what, I think we know it when we see it, that's what you said, but I do feel like it's important. I think if we're going to take the charge to step up from blocking and tackling and move into a standard that is what we think represents Downers Grove, I think it requires its own strategic goal around that, so we can point to that when we have things that are more blocking and tackling in front of us. We can say, we want pedestrian lighting down Main Street, not just
Right.
the bike lanes. We want to make sure it matches, or our gateway sign should look similar to the aesthetic of our.
Right.
And those
Sure.
those are based in what our goals are. So I wholeheartedly agree. I think we have let's say, a lot of opportunity for improvement there, and I hope that, I would love to see that as a tenant that we can use as a touchstone to get some of those things done.
So let me suggest this, that it be a sub-bullet point under continual innovation, because what I'm thinking of are, in a form of continual innovation, because what you're talking about is you're so much about doing something well, but then you're innovating and doing it better in a way that's aesthetically pleasing or it achieves other goals. It's the classic and solution, right? So you're not just doing A, you're doing A and B and C and D. And I'm thinking of examples like some of the innovative things we've done where we've combined multiple goals all together in either stormwater management and working with the park districts, or with the permeable pavers over the parking lot at North, where we didn't have to do that, but it was an opportunity to do something that was aesthetically pleasing, it was functionally advanced, and it was also consistent with infrastructure and stormwater management.
Less
I mean,
expensive than asphalt.
Less
Believe it or not.
expensive, so all of a sudden you're
Believe it or
doing all these things, and to me, that's really a subset of innovation, or a type of innovation.
Yeah.
And I'm only saying that, not that I disagree, but I'm always fearful of just adding too many things, and eventually now there's 12, there's 13.
Well, that was a practical question I was going to ask. Is there a, maybe this is a staff question, is there a limit to how many goals we should have?
I think so. I do think so.
Sorry to interrupt.
When you look at these goals, they're so fundamental and they're so applicable to what we do and how we do it. We've been very comfortable not only working with these previous goals, but actually delivering on them. When we added a safe community, it was sort of a no-brainer. When Commissioner Gilmartin brought it up 2 years ago, like, oh, we were already sort of doing that, and it helped us fine-tune it. If this ends up a goal, if there's some sort of goal of like aesthetically pleasing or beautiful components or whatever it ends up being, the wording, I'm not concerned about adding that one.
Okay.
Because it's a lot like a safe community. It's so fundamental, right? It's easy to apply. If we got a long list and they were nuanced, I would say that would be difficult to figure out how to apply. But this one, I think, is easy to understand. It's very simple in its desired outcome and how we apply it. I don't think this will be too much for staff if it ends up its own goal.
Well, I like the idea then of it having its own bullet point as opposed to a sub, because it elevates that in terms of importance, right? In terms of a goal.
Chris used the word paradigm shift, and that's
Yeah.
it. It's an elevation of it.
Mm-hmm.
It's just dangerous because it starts to be rearview mirror 20/20 hindsight kind of stuff, right? Which is not fair. But the reason we're talking about it, the reason I want to put it up there, the reason Chris might say there's room for improvement, is because whatever execution we've done on this existing list has not met what I hope the end result would be from an aesthetic standpoint. And so it's a, okay, now let's add this to our consideration of design and everything we do. That's part of it.
All right, so now that the dead cat's out on the table, that's almost exactly the reason why I didn't want to have it in its own bullet point. I would be very interested to see how you phrased it, because if it comes off as, I don't like the way some of the stuff that we did over the last few years looked, then I'm less interested in it. Because I do think that Commissioner Tully's right, that it does live in a number of the different things that we've got here. And it's absolutely part of innovation, it's absolutely part of infrastructure, and it's part of keeping a strong, diverse local economy in particular, not to mention being a steward of everything up there. So I'm less convinced that it needs to be its own bullet point, but I'd be willing to live with it depending on how it's written.
Well, we could,
So that's what I was hoping we'd get, is
Yeah.
some sort of a SketchUp draft kind of a thing.
That's what, that's what I was going to ask, is would it be possible to kind of see what it, I'm just going to ask you to do all the things, please, as usual, right? But like, kind of what would it look like if it sat under one of those, and then what would it look like if it were its own? Because I can see both points. I can see where we would say, well, of course that sits under neighborhood sustainability and being innovative. But at that point, we're doing it project by project instead of thinking it, again, as that more like comprehensive whole of, these are generally the standards that we will expect from now on, knowing the shift that we've had over the last 10 to 15 years. So a good example is village facilities, right? We worked so hard on the aesthetics and everything with that. But that, again, was one project that we had a lot of control over, whereas if we had it as a goal, I can understand how then we could point to people and say, this is our expectation, and this was something that our community thought was worth elevating. So I'm also not sure of kind of, what it would look like as its own bullet, but I'm interested in hearing more because I can understand that perspective, and it could be
the
important.
good news is from the staff perspective, whether this lands as its own bullet or whether these concepts are built into an expansion of the explanation of these, we hear your message. We've been on sort of an evolution lately, particularly as reflected in the village facilities, our
Right.
Civic Center project.
Yeah.
We've also seen it in the downtown.
Yeah.
More emphasis
Yeah.
on beautification, and
Right.
you'll hear more about that over the summer. So
Mm-hmm.
whether it ends up here or whether it ends up embedded here, your staff is listening, and we're going to follow that direction.
There's a creation of public spaces concept that Mike, you probably should be talking to this, not me, but when you create a public space, that can go a number of ways. There's creating a public space that's purely functional. There's also creating one that creates a space that people want to be in. And those aren't always, they can both be pretty innovative, and they can both be pretty fiscally responsible, and they can both be sustainable.
Yeah.
But this one may or may not be a place that people want to be in.
Yeah.
And I'd like all of our public spaces, whether it's the sidewalks down our streets or the plazas in our downtown, to be spaces people want to be in.
Places they want to belong to.
Well, when you get the function and aesthetic at a really high level working together, you win awards from the Chicago Building Congress. That's the kind of, other people recognize what you've done, and that's the best advertising you could ever ask for, right?
Yeah.
That's the sort of thing that furthers our desire to have people be here, come here. So there's going to need to be some wordsmithing if it's its own goal, but.
I think actually the exercise of trying to wordsmith it will be illustrative and instructive in terms of where it goes.
Yeah, I think you're probably right.
Yeah, we can take a crack at it and bring it back at one of these meetings here in June and see, and then we can wrap it up at the end and see how it fits once we see our work plan, once we see the issues, et cetera.
Yeah, there wouldn't have been any expectation we were going to add a goal tonight, just to be clear. Any other adds, changes?
Congratulations to past councils for coming up with good goals.
It's evolved.
Can I just, real quick, because I think one of the things that as we look at this list with the potential new one on, there is some potential for conflict if, in the eyes of those executing, right? So a steward of financial sustainability is looking at a fence and a drainage ditch. So I feel like that also has to come with this council's commitment to, if we're going to put that on there, which I fully support. I know what you're thinking, and I think what they'll come back with will hit it. We're sort of giving ourselves a little bit of or giving the village a little bit of an escape route and pointing back to that, well, yes, this would meet this objective or goal, but we also have this goal that may be in conflict. And I don't know how we choose, and maybe that's the policy-making process at work, but,
It is.
Yeah.
But it doesn't get chosen for us.
but it doesn't get,
It's a process.
yeah.
Forgive me, but I'm not following the concern.
Yeah, sorry, so I just think, that the goal of steward of financial responsibility has been a fairly long-standing goal in this village, right? We have been historically low in taxes, we have provided a lot for less. And I think when it comes to some of this aesthetic stuff that we're talking about, that's sometimes not seen as the value, perhaps, that maybe in your eyes it might, but others may not see that as a good use of funds when we can build a cheap fence versus a fence that is,
So is a cheap fence actually an inexpensive fence? So it's
Well,
all how you,
What Chris is getting at is the
What's the
classic
dollar
situation is where you have to figure out how you can actually check multiple boxes. And that ultimately becomes a challenge to the council and the staff to figure out how to do something that's aesthetically pleasing, drives our branding, increases business attraction and retention, makes people happy to be here, yet might be a little bit more expensive, but is not out of whack with the value that you're seeing. So you're paying a little bit more. For example, just some of the things like what we did with the parking deck years ago.
Yeah.
We could have built a much less
Yeah.
expensive parking deck, but no, this is the middle of our downtown. We have to make sure it has a brick facade that blends in with other facilities.
Right.
We make sure it has to have high ceilings so people can see long distances. It has better lighting so people feel safer. That the elevator shafts have big open spaces. So again, issue of safety. I know the parking deck's a terrible example, but go with me on this one. Or even,
I think
even the
it's a
permeable pavers.
it's a good example.
No,
It's
it
it's
is.
thinking about those things, it's not just, well, it costs more money, it's no, it may cost a little bit more money, but it's still reasonable, but it adds a sense of safety, it adds a sense of branding, it adds, it's innovative, it's exceptional service, I mean, so you check all these other boxes, and that's that balance that's really up to us to achieve of working with staff in the community. So I think there is that contrast, but it's good
yeah.
that we have
And
that
I
contrast.
agree, I guess, and the example you brought up with the parking deck is a great example. Village Hall is also a great
Yeah,
example.
Right.
Those
exactly.
are big projects where a lot of focus is on, and so we have taken, I think, past councils and current, the time to look at those and evaluate those beyond just function. What I see is the fence in the drainage ditch, the shrubs on the corner of this street, the parkways, like, those are sort of little things that can easily be dismissed or overlooked, and not saying they are, but I think the commitment to something like this has to belong to not only the big projects, but the little one,
Oh, yeah.
because it's the aggregate of all
100%.
of that, right?
Oh, absolutely.
And sometimes, I think, with the financial questions around those little things tend to be maybe not considered as, well, just get it done this way, so it's done, as opposed to, let's take a comprehensive look at what the impact of this has on the overall aesthetic, that's all. Should that help at all? It's okay if it doesn't.
Somewhat.
It helps,
okay
but
with
I
that.
still don't think they're necessarily in competition, especially when you look at the goal itself. You know, we talk about financial sustainability not as we're going to go with the cheapest option, but by showing that we're aligning expenses with revenues, implement revenue sources that withstand short-term uncertainty and provide long-term. Like, when you really dig into the goal, it's not necessarily being like, well, we're always going to go with the cheapest option, right? It is. We are really thinking about kind of those long-term perspectives. And so I think, yeah, it's incumbent upon us to make sure that we are
Sure.
looking at those small projects in the same way that we do
But
large.
There's still a subjectivity to it.
Of course,
And-
we're humans.
And at some point, you go, okay, we've got, X number of dollars in the general fund.
changes
we're gonna
every 2
spend them
years.
One way or another. And we can, just to borrow from an old debate, you can repave X number of miles of road each year, or if we're gonna put in curb and gutter, you're gonna end up repaving a lot fewer miles of road.
Right.
And I think it also goes to, the subjectivity piece goes to something Mike said earlier with, what do we consider to be aesthetically pleasing? Some of the older, buildings, the older styles that are, you could call sustainable, and I like that description, are also aesthetically pleasing, I would think, to most, but not necessarily to everybody. And I'd be the first to say, you don't want me designing your house or anything like that. So, I think my point is, let's make sure that we keep an eye on picking things that are timeless.
It's a little bit like downtown design guidelines, though, right?
Right.
Yeah.
That's exactly
Yep,
right.
it's exactly like that.
Picking a style, we're setting parameters for, help me with the wording. You should be the one helping.
I'm just gonna let you fumble.
It's a lot like downtown design.
Right.
It is, it's a lot like it.
Yes.
It's that same thing.
You're
We're setting
putting a
out some of the
structure.
broader things that we think are important from a sense of place than we are a specific design. It's not about picking that building versus that building. It's about saying that for this sense of place, we'd like these characteristics. And that's really more what
Yeah.
Well, we've been on a journey, and when our journey started, we still were, or I'm familiar with it, we really weren't in a position to consider all of these things when we put this goal in place, because we had some serious short-term challenges that were long-term issues. And over the years, we've put our fund balances at the right level. We've improved our infrastructure to be maintainable with lower life cycle costs. And in that 15 or 20-year journey, we positioned ourselves to go from lowest cost to value, and now the next part of that journey may be adding an aesthetic component. So, from the staff perspective, this conversation is incredibly helpful. No matter where it ends up, we're hearing this, we'll take that with us, and
So what-
design projects big or small.
What I'm hearing is that the past council's staff have moved to trying to make value decisions, right? And those value decisions now are giving us maybe a little more latitude, financially and otherwise, to make more value decisions going forward, that maybe in the past we couldn't because we had to put out fires. We have, we'd love to spend more on this, but we need to take care of this right now. Now we can make more of these value decisions so that it'll just build on itself, right? So you're actually lowering your expenses in the future by doing the right things now. And you don't always have the luxury of being able to do that, I understand. But perhaps going forward, we have a little bit more luxury to do that than we have in the past, and that just economically, I think, bodes really well for the village.
Anything else?
I love this format. If we could do all of our council meetings just like this.
I know, these are
This
great.
would be, this would be
We'll
fabulous.
talk about that. Once upon a time, we did.
So, I really love the work in the back and forth and hearing what everyone has to say and being able to play off of that. It's really wonderful. So, thank you for this.
Any comments from visitors?
All I can tell you is just, from my point of view, of course, when I get together with friends, family, whatever, or at bars, whatever, conversation, I think a lot of people in town are starting to feel like our downtown might be in jeopardy. A lot of folks want to hang on to whatever character we have left, and I hear that quite a bit from folks. Just we've got a town with history, interesting history. And it's, I think a lot of folks with new development, nobody's saying we shouldn't have it, but we want to hang on to what we do have and capitalize on it. Because a lot of people move into town, one of the reasons I hear is we like the charm of Downers Grove, we like this, we like that. And sometimes with the new things coming in, it's let's not forget what we've got, our base, our foundation. and we don't want to get too far away from that. But the other thing, when you're talking about downtown, and I understand the necessity of us all helping the restaurants, you know, especially with COVID. But downtown now, you come through downtown, and all you see is, well, we've got 3 blocks, 4 blocks. We have 7 restaurants that are now utilizing our parking space. 23 at least parking spaces are given over to the restaurants. Is that a permanent thing, or is this temporary, or what? We would like to see some businesses come in where we could shop downtown instead of just bars and restaurants. But if we don't have a place for people to park, why would they bother? It's not attractive right now. When you drive downtown with all these, it's not pretty. I understand the need to help the restaurants. We don't want to lose them either, but it's a kind of a fine balancing act, I think, and good luck. I'll be at the bar. But thank you for asking. Appreciate it.
Thanks for sticking it out.
Yeah.
I think we're good. Anything else?
Okay, I got nods from the staff table. We're all set. Thank you, Mayor and Council.
All right. Follow this process wherever the camera is. If you're at home, please follow the process. It'll be continuing through most of the summer and into early fall, and it's a big part of how we decide how to go forward. So, thank you all tonight. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Mayor, I move to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you all, and good night.
Who in the right?